Hello, good morning, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
I can, yes, thank you. Good morning.
Yep.
Okay, I see Darren is also here, and just virtual notification that everything is recorded in this meeting. So please follow IETF's Note 12 rules. And we can get started. Should we share the GitHub document again?
You should put up the note well slide.
Oh, we need to? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have those handy, Karen?
So Darren, you are muted again.
Darren, that's a cool couch.
And you as well, Ted.
Am I? No, I'm not muted.
Or my loudspeaker do not work, which is maybe the case as well.
Yeah, because I heard Darren. Can you hear us now? Signs point to no.
I am going to share my screen just for the purpose of Note 12. Here we go.
Here we go.
All good?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so I'll stop sharing my screen. And who's going to share the document? Ted, is it going to be you?
I can do it again if you'd like.
Sure, I think you'll be typing faster once the edits start coming in.
All right. I just need to remember how to do it. Wow. Oh, here we go. So somebody has to approve my request.
We will.
Done.
Oh, wait. Sorry, I should have said share screens. Share screen, not share slides. So you have to approve me again. Sorry.
No.
We'll just hope for the best.
At least you're not in the car today.
Oh, you're doing that thing again where you, Karen, where your audio just kind of like there's some kind of buffer bloat or something going on your network where your audio just like gets.
Okay, I'm going to change my speakers and mic. Just I'll come back. So please
Okay.
go ahead. I'll join in 30 seconds.
All right, so that screen share did not work.
All right. Request again and we'll approve.
Let's see what's going on here. It's weird. Hang on a second. Oh. Generally, I like Safari, but every so often it really pisses me off.
You know, this
Oh.
manufacturer of tools is pretty bad, right? You should never work for them.
Yeah, well, I'm stuck with it, at least for the time being. All right,
Let's
so
wait until you hear Darren and myself complain on Cisco routers, right? Sometimes, so.
yeah. All right,
Luckily,
so
didn't all the code in them, so we get to complain.
here we go. Wow, this is really bad. Sorry, I'm like just trying to get all of my tabs in the same window because I can only share windows. I can't share
Oh,
applications, so I can't just like share Safari.
okay.
All right, let's try this again. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I granted you
Hi.
permission.
Okay, accept. Fenster. No reactions, thank you. All right, so we have our lovely, oh, wow, that's really bad. Okay. This is terrible. Got it. There's this little feature that's in like newer versions of Mac OS where there's a little button that you can click on to control things like, for example, whether when you give a thumbs up, it like does a weird Animoji. And that was just kind of stuck up over, and it's like this big dialogue with a bunch of stuff in it. And it was stuck up over my Safari screen, so I couldn't see what it was doing. Anyway, so the actual thing that we need to look at is the issues. Let me get that into the same window. All right, so are you guys seeing the issues now?
Could you make it bigger, please?
Yes. In theory, math is hard. How's that?
Okay.
Do you mean, is that like reasonably good?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so one thing to mention before we dig into issues is I sent some email to the mailing list just now about the stub router document, the stub router flags document, which I'd kind of forgotten about, and it's currently expired. At some point, probably on the order of a year and a half ago, Eric asked us to do an early allocation, which we never actually got around to doing. So I think there's a couple of action items that the working group should do. One is ask for the early allocation. That was a good suggestion. Two, we actually need a version of it published. And three, we should do a last call on it so that we can get it reviewed, because the agreement that we had with 6man was we would review it, decide that it was what we wanted and that it was correct, and then we would send it to 6man and 6man would review it. So in order for that to happen, we have to do our last call within our working group, even though it's not our working group document, just to get it done. And then after we've done that, then we can send it on to 6man.
So that means we want this document to be reviewed in our work group as well. We need people to review it and read through it and be satisfied
Right.
with the content.
Yeah. I mean, basically, 6man doesn't care what it says. They just care that it's not wrong. So we have to decide what it's supposed to say before we send it to them. That was the ask.
And we should not call it a working group last call, obviously. We should call it something like a SNAC last call or something on the document, right? Just to be clear.
Yep.
Okay, because it is not SNAC working group document. It will
Correct.
still be 6man. So does that mean that stub router bit is going to be mandatory for SNAC to work, or stub networking to work? Okay, good.
That's, I mean, the document I think currently makes it mandatory. Certainly the changes that that I looked at this morning, that from Jonathan had a pull request 2 weeks ago that made some changes, and some changes have been made to that pull request since then. And that pull request does seem to require the stub router bit. And I don't see really how we could, like, I think it would be a mistake to not use the stub router bit, because I think it would be more likely that on a network that provides IPv6 service, we would create instability if we don't use the stub router bit.
Yeah, I think as a developer, it is a very good hint that you're working with stub networking, and since it is a state machine based, having this kind of bit is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sorry, one quick question on this, if I may. Is there, this is about the stub router flag bit. How confident are we that this will be the allocation? Like currently there is, I think, a suggested allocation in the document. Is there any risk that there will be a different flag or different bit set later on, or are we confident that this would be the thing? The reason I'm asking is, if we start using it in the shipped product, like will we end up with a compatibility issue in future or not?
This is the reason to ask for an early allocation. Yeah, because the answer is, I mean, I don't want to speak for Eric, it's kind of his bailiwick, but I'll just tell you from my experience that the answer is they're not going to capriciously change it, but somebody else comes along and asks for a bit, it might be the same bit. So let's get our bit.
Yep. So let's be quick on it. Got it. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Thanks.
Okay, so I guess we can start looking at the issues.
Or the PRs, huh? That we have.
PR, yeah,
PRs
sure. So maybe I'm going to start from the back. So we reviewed a number of these last time. I don't remember if we reviewed this one. Yes, we did, because it's approved. So all right, so this one's been marked approved. I think because we let's see, ESCO so Jonathan did that one. Did this issue get fixed?
No, it didn't, but I suggested to first commit what we have, and then I can make a new issue
okay,
based on the text.
Right.
Otherwise, you keep iterating on the same text, and it gets very complex. So apparently there's someone who understands it, so that must be the author of the text.
Right.
So we can always clarify later on.
Okay, so then I think, and then we have some more text here, and this seems to apply, the same comment you just made seems to apply here, that we should do this in a separate pull request. So so I think the answer is this one's ready to go. Right? No objections?
Nope.
Okay, I'm hearing no objections. So then we've got generating a per stub router ULA site prefix. So we had a pretty good discussion about this last time. And so one of the things that Jonathan did between then and now is add the glossary definitions that we talked about for ULA site prefix and ULA link prefix. And I note that ESCO has some language clarifications for those two definitions, and I also suggested a language clarification. And then a lot of these changes are just changing the terminology to use the new term that we're defining in the glossary. I reviewed these just this morning, so I'm just making sure that I'm not missing anything. If anybody else wants to chime in on this, please don't hesitate. Yeah, right. So one might object that the prefix of the stub, this statement says the prefix the stub router is advertising as a ULA prefix, and the received prefix is a non-ULA prefix. But it's certainly true that whatever we're advertising is going to be a ULA prefix. I don't think we need to make it any more clear than that. We could say a ULA link prefix there. That was kind of the one slight nit that I saw there, but I don't really think we need to change that. I think it just makes the language clunkier. Now, this change is actually a little bit questionable in the sense that what we're saying here is the on-link prefix, which happens to be a ULA link prefix. What we're saying here is the ULA link prefix, but ULA link prefix does not uniquely identify a prefix, because we might have a ULA link prefix for infrastructure and a ULA link prefix for the stub network. So here we might.
Is it the AIL link prefix? Is that
What's that?
Here? Is it the AIL link prefix? Is that what's?
Yeah, right. So it's the and this is in a section that's talking about. I don't actually. Yeah. I don't know if we don't see the section name here, but this is in the section that's talking about the AIL, the prefix on the AIL. So in principle, it's probably okay to say this. The reason I'm objecting a little bit to this change is because on link sounds it's not saying something that's ambiguous, and UI link prefix kind of is. So we could say, I mean, I think personally that on-link prefix was good, and I think we should just not make this change. But what do you think, Jonathan? You made the change for a reason, obviously.
Yeah, no, this was more just, I don't have a strong opinion on this. I guess the other question is whether we should have defined terms for the AIL prefix and the stub network prefix.
And I would second your suggestion, Jonathan, on this one. You may want, though, to put prefixes, just in case. Oh, and by the way, it's just me, Eric, not the AD, right? Just to be clear.
Yeah. So I don't think we would ever have a plural here because it's just one. We never advertise more than one. So I think we're okay on that. Yeah. Just in this case, that wouldn't necessarily, what you said might make sense on the stub network.
Yeah, just one comment I have on this. So when I was reviewing, I did assume that because the whole section is about AIL, that everything is in the context of AIL. So I did not add in my reviews specific terms like AIL here and there because it's already implied by the context.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I tend to agree with you, Esco. I think it's not really necessary. But
so it should be clear, okay, whatever the term is here. So, yeah. But okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, we could also change this to that, but I don't know that we need to.
Yeah, there's one thing, by the way, to keep in mind is that this prefix that it is advertising might not be derived from the ULA site prefix, but it might be derived from other information. Like for the thread case, we mentioned that in another PR. Like this is a better way.
Yeah,
so it's not necessarily a ULA link prefix that's derived from the site prefix.
Okay.
Yep. The other. But okay.
So I should refer all the changes in this section then to back to onlink, like the one below that you're hovering over.
Oh, sorry. So this one here, yeah, I don't think we need to use. Yeah, I don't think this change really needs to happen either. You're right. You know what step means, right?
Now I do.
Maybe that needs a name then, huh? So the prefix that it's advertising on the AIL.
Yeah, I mean, we could just dub it the its AIL prefix. But the problem is AIL prefix is also ambiguous because that could be the prefix that's advertised by infrastructure. So
That's right. Yeah.
so if we were going to, I mean, basically it's just going to make that text even clunkier because we would have to say the prefix. I mean, basically we'd have to change all of these to the prefix. So the prefix, well, I mean, in fact, we're saying the prefix is preferable to the prefix it is advertising, right? We said the one it is advertising, but I think that kind of means the same thing. So it continues to advertise its own prefix. There we're being very clear about whose prefix it is. So I think actually changing it to the ULA link prefix somewhat breaks that. So yeah, I think putting this back actually is probably all we need to do. If we tried to do more, we would just be making the language more sort of clunky and complicated. Okay. Generating a per stub router ULA site prefix, that's a great name change. Must allocate its own ULA site prefix. Yep. Okay, so that was the clarification we desperately needed last time. So that's good. And there's a good language clarification from ESCO. Should be maintained across reboots and should remain stable over time. So we've got a TBD here to mention the exception cases. I'm assuming the proposal is to do that in a separate pull request.
Yeah, this is just text from previous. Oh no.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you tweaked it, but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we would need to add some more text about this, and we had a discussion about this. I apologize for not having gotten around to this in the past week, but I'm still sort of in the, things are definitely a lot less busy than they were 2 weeks ago, but I'm still kind of in recovery from the development cycle. So hopefully this week I'll have time to actually review the audio and type in the stuff that we talked about that I said I was going to do. Anyway, so I can, if nobody else wants to, I could probably write up some text about this in a new pull request once this one's been merged. We should probably merge all of the pull requests that we agree on as soon as possible so that we have a clean slate. Okay, so I don't see an issue with that. Must use, yeah, right. So here, in this context, if we really want to say the ULA site prefix, then we would have to change this to say allocating a ULA link prefix out of its ULA site prefix, because we're certainly not going to use the whole ULA site prefix here.
Or self-allocated ULA link prefix or something. Like replace self-generated.
Well, actually, so here we're talking about the stub network. So we're definitely using the self-generated site prefix right now. So rather than the link prefix, it allocated. So I mean that would be the sort of strictly correct thing to say there. It might be possible to say it with fewer words, but I don't know if we need to. So I'll just make that suggestion. This is not, okay. So, and then, yeah, length greater than 64. Right. So we don't actually say what to do if we get a prefix delegation that's narrower than 64, and we probably should.
Oh, it does say that on top.
It,
Oh, does it?
Generated /64, right? is what it says to do. In line
Yeah, oh
5,
yeah, you're right. You're right. Yep. Okay.
Uh,
Solved. Okay, so good. Something else?
I just wanted to finish reading it, sorry.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. So this is mostly just a reform. So it looks like a big change, but it's not. In fact, I don't think that.
Nothing changed.
Just the ULA prefix to ULA site
Yeah.
prefix.
Okay.
Sorry.
Can you guys all see this? It's basically the stuff that's highlighted is what sort of changed, but most of it didn't. Yeah, so literally this is the only text that changed, ULA site prefix. Right, and I made a suggestion here, which is sort of maybe should be a separate issue. So Jonathan, please feel free to just change that into a new issue. Which is, we talk about the fact that because we're using our own ULA site prefix for the NAT64 prefix, if there are multiple border routers, whichever address the device on thread sends to over NAT64 is going to be specific to that BR. And the return path is also going to be specific because the IPv4 address that was used on the other side is going to identify that BR specifically. So we don't, it might just be worth mentioning that the path is covered in both directions for anybody who's curious, but I don't know what we need to. So let's see. And that's just the usual thing. Right, and this is the text that we already discussed all of this text. This text was previously placed in a different section. But this is the section about handling partitioning events. So previously this was in the section up here. Way up here maybe. No? Oh yeah, so previously those three paragraphs were in this section, but when we talked about this last time, we decided it was a little confusing. And so this section now just kind of talks about the motivation for generating a per stub router ULA site prefix. And then the discussion about partitioning is moved back down into the section on partitioning. Originally we were talking about partitioning in the other section to motivate generating the prefix. But it seemed like that was just sort of a duplication of effort. So I don't think we really need to review this text again. We already reviewed it. That's changed to the link prefix, and that's it. So I marked this one as I marked this one as needs work based on this comment. So the point here was that the glossary entry says a unique local, the ULA link prefix is a unique local address /64 prefix derived from the ULA site prefix. And I just wanted to change that from derived from to allocated from, and then also talk about how many of these prefixes can be allocated, just to get the reader into the state of mind that this is an allocation and not like some mathematical thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah. I mean, it's possible, like so we talked about, let's see, where is it? Yeah, TBD, this TBD, the exception cases, it's possible that that the allocation might be like sort of predefined and static, but it still would be an allocation, not a derivation, I think. Anyway, so I think this one's good. Like Jonathan, if you don't mind making those changes, and like any changes that you don't think are appropriate for this, make a new issue. Is that all right?
That's
Okay.
sounds good to me.
Thank you. All right, so that was this one. So, and then this one, we already approved this one in the last discussion. So I think we're good here. This is, right, this was the change from usable to suitable. So yeah, we already talked about this one. Okay, and then the makefile stuff, I don't know if there's anything in here that is in any sense controversial. I think the answer to that is no. So I think we're good there. Oh, well, actually, I don't know that this has been approved, so. Unless anybody, like, I'm going fast here, but if anybody objects, please stop me. So, and then this is the one that triggered me talking about the stub router flag. So I think, Esco, you proposed this yesterday or today. So, right, so yeah, we said originally that the A and the L bits were in the stub router advertisement header flag, but they're not. They're in the prefix information option header. So, and then this also adds some text about stale RA time, right? Yeah, so basically documenting what recent means here. Oh, right, yeah. No, the other thing was adding the M&O bits, because we had talked about that kind of in a separate issue. And so just talking about how to do the M&O bits. And then, so one interesting question here that I had when I was reviewing this text is stale RA time is 10 minutes. And I'm kind of on the fence about what the right thing to say here is. I guess just to sort of state the problem, there's two issues here. One is we don't want to advertise different values for the M&O bit than other routers on the link are advertising. And so, and the purpose of advertising, so let's say the M and the O bits are set, because if they're clear, we're not advertising anything different, right? If the other router advertisement didn't have the M or the O bit set, we're not changing that. But if, let's say the infrastructure router advertisement did set the M and O bits, in that case, what's being said is that DHCP service is available on this link, and DHCP service is reachable by a well-known multicast address. So it's actually sort of orthogonal to the router advertisement. And so, so when we say that the M&O bits are, that we're reflecting the M&O bits, what we're doing is we're basically just not contradicting what the other router advertisement said. And then the question, so the reason I'm belaboring this is because I'm a little concerned that stale RA time is not the right time to use here. Because the problem we're trying to solve is avoiding thrashing the M&O bits back and forth, not like if suppose we set the M&O bits, right? We're advertising at this point, potentially, let's say the router is stale. So when the router is stale, we start advertising a usable on-link prefix because we want to make sure that there's IPv6 service so that devices on the link can communicate with the stub network. So we are now advertising a usable prefix. If we set the M&O bits, one of two things is going to happen. Either the DHCP service is still there, and so the device that sees the M&O bits goes and does its DHCP thing and gets an address allocated potentially, or it doesn't. if it gets an address allocated, we know we know how to reach that address, right? For us, that address is on link, even though the router advertisement is quote unquote stale, because we saw the router advertisement and it hasn't expired yet. And so we can route to that address. So we don't actually have a problem if a host on the link does DHCP, even though we consider the router advertisement that we saw to be stale. So I'm thinking that the actual time here should be longer than stale RA time. It probably shouldn't be infinite, but I think I mean, sort of notionally, we could say that it's whatever the lifetime of, whatever the router lifetime that was advertised in the previous RA was. I think that's potentially too big because some routers advertise stupidly large router lifetimes. But there was a discussion in V6 Ops about this a while back, and I think they settled on like 30 minutes. I could probably track down what that RFC or that document was and reference it here, because I think that you know, basically the idea was we shouldn't let an RA that was sent on the wire 3 months ago cause dysfunction now, just because it had a super long lifetime, even though that router's long gone. But similarly, I don't think we need to thrash the RA bits in. So I don't think we need to thrash the MNO bits in quite as quickly as we're providing an on-link prefix, because we're solving two different problems. We provide the on-link prefix so that a new host arrives if the infrastructure on-link prefix is stale. We advertise a prefix so that new host has some address to use. But that's the only reason that we're doing that. So we're not sure that the router is gone. It's possible the router's still there. Like the host might send a router, might multicast a router solicit and immediately get a router advertised back from the old stale, quote unquote, stale router. So anyway, that's my pitch. I think we ought to true this up to whatever the document that was being done in, I don't remember whether it was 6man or V6 Ops that was talking about shortening router lifetime. So just use the same number that they're using rather than using 10 minutes.
So
does that make sense?
What you said makes sense. I think one thing, like we talk about maintaining reachability to the routers that we see, and I guess the question here is, if you determine that a router that was advertising MNO set is no longer reachable, do we take any action there to basically reset the MNO bits?
So, I mean, I can't remember what this document currently says. I will say in our implementation right now, we actually probe the router every 60 seconds with a unicast neighbor solicit to see if it's there. And if we don't get a response within 60 seconds, we start advertising a prefix on the adjacent infrastructure link. So that's really fast. And one of the reasons the router might not be there is because it's rebooted. So certainly we don't want to do it that quickly because like it could just be a reboot. So we missed the router advertisement because of a reboot. Like we sent the neighbor solicit right when the router was rebooting. We didn't get an answer because it didn't get the neighbor solicit, and it took longer than the time that we retried the neighbor solicit to reboot. That's perfectly normal and acceptable and should not result in the MNO bits fluctuating, I think.
Yeah. Also,
here we're saying, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think you also have to track potentially all the routers that are advertising MNO bits and that are not stub routers. And in the current draft, I think the tracking of reachabilities only applies to one router, right?
Oh, well, so, I mean, let's say there are 5 routers providing a usable prefix. If what we want is, we certainly don't want to start advertising a prefix just because one of them went down. So if the document currently says that, we should probably fix it.
don't recall what the doc says, but in our implementation, we track each router separately.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know my implementation tracks all of the routers. I can't remember whether it does neighbor solicits on all of the routers at all times, or whether it just does it on the one that was detected as like the current usable prefix. But if the current usable prefix went away, then we would probably select a different router and be probing that. So either way, I think in that particular case, we aren't going to get to the point where we stop treating the routers as present. I mean, there's also the issue that like there could be 5 routers on a link and 3 of them are advertising with the MNO bit set and 2 of them aren't because they're not complying with the protocol in the way that we're trying to comply with the protocol. And if that were to be the case, then we'd be kind of like, you know, I guess it's not our fault at that point. But
Yeah, okay, but you have to track then probably the last one that sent the router advertisement and make sure
Exactly.
that one is still alive at least. So always the last one. I don't think there's a need to track all routers. So what if there are 5 or 10? You just keep unicasting to all of those for no reason, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the last one determines well the value basically.
Anyway, the point I was getting at with the MNO bits is that if we set the MNO bits when the DHCP service isn't there, it doesn't actually cause any harm. And so I suppose the case in which it could potentially cause harm is if DHCP service is there, but RA service isn't. But I think that's like such a weird edge case that I first of all, I think we would still behave correctly in that weird edge case. And secondly, I don't think it's likely to happen. Like if you've gone to the trouble to set up the DHCP service on your network, you have your intention at least is to have stable IPv6 service on your infrastructure link. And so if it goes away and things start breaking, that's not going to be a surprise to you. Like what we're really aiming at here with all of this code, with all of these probes and stuff like that, is the case where the network isn't managed at all. So, so anyway, that's like my pitch here would be to use like whatever the time is that's documented in the, I think it was Fernando Gaunt was working on this, or yeah, there was a big discussion on V6 Ops about a year ago about this. I don't actually remember how it came out. But if that document exists, we should probably rely on it. If not, I guess we could just keep stale RA time.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Is it? Yeah, but I mean, Ted, was it? And maybe I'm opening up again, but wasn't it? Is it stale RA time or whatever the lifetime was that was advertised in the last?
Right.
RA?
So the question is, so stale RA time is 10 minutes. The lifetime is arbitrarily long. It could be 3 months.
Yeah.
So I don't think we want to use 3 months under any circumstances. That's just bad because, you know, things can change in 3 months, right? On a local area network. So so then the question is, should we just keep stale RA time or should we pick an intermediate interval? Like if and you know, have that be the upper limit on how long a lifetime can be before we just ignore it.
But then when are we going to get the next, when do we get the next RA, right? In order to
yeah, I mean, normally we should get a multicast RA every like, I can't remember exactly, but I think it's like every 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So in principle, this should never happen if the router is there. But, you know, if it rebooted or if there was a reachability issue for the router, maybe. I mean, yeah, it's like.
Yeah. So what if we get what if we're using MNO from router A's advertisement, and then we don't see any RAs from router A anymore, and we start seeing them from router B. This is just basically saying switch the MNO flags when the stale RA time expires. Is that right?
So I
Don't
guess
want-
what you're getting at is that we haven't really talked about remembering advertisements from all of the routers that we've seen on the link. We just say seen in a recent router advertisement
Could be
received from a
most
non-stub
recent,
router.
actually. The most recent one is that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the last in, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just if we don't see anything for a period of time, any RAs for a period of time, then we need to do something with the MNO flag. But do we really need to do anything with the MNO flag, or do we just keep them as we last learned, as we last knew them?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question too, right? We could just, you know, we saw a router advertisement at some point. We could just leave it that way.
Because why would we change them from the last thing we saw? Because then we're going to end up. The reason I asked that is because we end up with problems in assumed timings. Like 10 minutes is a long time for us right now, but maybe it's not.
Right. So, I mean, that's why I was suggesting that we use Fernando's document, because I think, you know, the tension is, right, why did the router go away? Well, if it went away for a brief period of time, it's probably because it got rebooted or like somebody unplugged it so they could plug in a vacuum cleaner or something like that, right? We've all seen that happen. But also, it's possible that it actually has just physically been removed from the network and the user intended for that to happen. And so if that's the case, then we don't want to perpetuate information that was advertised by this router forever.
Right.
Right. So
but when would we advertise? Yeah, when would we advertise something different? Only when we learn something different, right?
Well, but we might not learn anything different. It might be that they've just decommissioned that router and they have no intention of putting a new one in.
Yeah.
And,
so then,
go
ahead. Sorry.
So in that case, I mean, that's the whole point of this bit of text, is to deal with the situation that we can't assume on an unmanaged network that the presence of a router at time A implies the perpetual presence of that router for time A plus n for any value of n, right? So you know, in an actual managed network, that wouldn't be the case, but here we're talking about the unmanaged case. So so that's why, like, I think it does make sense for us to make some effort to sort of track what we're seeing on the network, but not be too quick about it. And that's why I keep mentioning Fernando's document, because the Fernando's document was basically observing that the defaults that are set in the original, I think it's RFC 4861 or whatever, the original neighbor discovery document, are like huge. Like the router advertisement sets a router lifetime of a month, right? And a month is a long time. And in operations, we see that a month might be too long to retain information that we received from a router advertisement if the router isn't still there. And so Fernando's point was, let's make these numbers a little bit smaller, but not stupidly small. And so I think that makes sense in this context as well.
Yeah, there's also the thing to think about: if a stub router reboots while the normal router has been taken down, for example, then the new stub router will start with 00, because it doesn't see anything else.
Yep.
So it means it also has to not conflict with the other stub routers that are up for maybe weeks.
Right.
So it has to eventually be consistent, I think, and then 30 minutes or so sounds good.
Yeah. So, and actually, that's an interesting point, because I think right now, what do we say? Recent router advertisement. Okay, so I think maybe we should say, that make sense?
Well, maybe think about it first. If that is stable in a way, like if it doesn't perpetuate the values of 1, for example, and that's not what we want then.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
So,
So my idea was to have, for this particular case, to allow some short period of inconsistency if these reboots happened during that time. But then after, let's say, for example, 30 minutes, it should all go back to everyone advertising zeros again.
okay, so that does still get us the flopping M&O bits.
Or maybe
And we can't assume.
Sorry, I was just going to suggest maybe there's some fixed period of time after a reboot that you allow adopting the M&O bits from a stub router.
Right. Yeah. So right name. I can't remember, but hopefully stale RA time. So I'm not entirely in love with this text, but basically what this is, I mean, the challenge that we have here is that, well, no, I mean, this would work, right? Because let's suppose all of the stub routers reboot at the same time except one. And then we get the M and the O bits from that stub router. Well, so at some point, that stub router is going to consider the M and the O bit stale, and or the router advertisement that it's using to justify the M and O bit stale, and stop advertising them. But if that stub router reboots after the other stub routers have rebooted, so they've adopted the first stub router's M and O bits. Now the first stub router reboots, and so it's going to adopt the M and O bits that it sees from the stub routers that are present on the link, which might actually be set because, you know, we're doing this copying thing. It's still going to stop doing it fairly quickly, probably more quickly than stale RA time, because the other stub routers are going to have expired its advertisement and start advertising 0 M&O bits. So I think this works. Like, I don't think this has a sort of self-sustaining quality. I don't hear anybody objecting. Is this like rank skepticism, or does everybody agree?
I'm just trying to think through, like, is there a way to contrive, right? Just rebooting the devices in a specific order, but that I don't know how likely that scenario can happen in practice.
Yeah, I mean, if you reboot the devices, if you basically very carefully reboot all of the devices, like before the stale RA time has expired, it's possible that you could sustain the M&O bits for a long period of time by doing that. But if you did, it's not the end of the world. It's not actually going to cause an interrupt problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
Actually,
you're just
so if we sustain the M&O bits, is there no interrupt problem? So we
I
no
don't-
longer receive
yeah.
an array. Yeah.
right. I don't think the reason to not sustain the M&O bits is just because we're trying to reflect the network operator's intention, and we don't really have a way to do that. Like the network operator can't tell us
Yeah.
what their intention is. So we're just
Exactly.
kind of trying to figure it out based on what we see. And yeah.
And the reason I wonder about, do we need to zero the M&O bits at any point is that if there's no other router on the network, then what is our stub network doing, right? Like,
Well, no, there might be an IPv4 only router.
okay.
Yeah.
In
And
which
also,
case, yeah,
there might
M&O, in which case we never received it and M&O must be 0. Okay.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, also it can be the case. I mean, certainly we test this in our test environment that, an IPv6 router shows up and starts advertising router advertisements, possibly with the M&O bit set. And then after a period of time, it goes away again. And do we handle that correctly? So anyway, so I think this text basically works. So I would suggest that we are done talking about it. That's all right.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
that's okay. I can update this PR.
All right. And then so the text now says the router advertisement header flags field. But in fact, if I'm remembering correctly, we currently are not using. Yeah, we're currently using the RA flags extensions option. Personally, I don't see the need to use that option, but because there is room in the bits,
I think the reason was that the bits are full, right? And then we move into the extent.
I think there's 2 bits left.
There's very little left, yeah.
Yeah, so the question was, would they allow us to take one of those 2?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, personally, I would be a little tempted to just, request that.
Yeah, why not take it? Someone will.
Right. Yeah, here's the bits. So
yeah, 2, 6 and 7 are left.
Yeah. And I mean, the bits that we're currently using, some of them, I think actually possibly aren't even being used. But anyway, yeah. So I guess the reason we started this discussion was because it wasn't clear that we actually wanted to use the router advertisement header flags field. But if we sort of, as a group, agree that that's what we're going to ask for, and we can let 6man tell us no, we can't have it, then we can leave this text the way it is for now and change it if 6man tells us we have to.
Well, I think it's both header flags. So if you look at the YANA registry, they kind of lumped the 2 together. So the header flags and the extension thing are now just one thing called header flags, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, another thing to say is that, Apton raised this point earlier. If we request an early allocation, it's going to be pretty easy to get an early allocation for bits 8 through 55. But probably rather difficult to get an allocation for bit 6 or 7. an early allocation.
Yeah, that was the
So-
assumption we had, right?
So
Okay.
I guess we need to ask ourselves, like, how important is it to get one of the last 2 bits? Because we will have to wait for those. We'll have to wait until after 6-man working group last call, even if 6-man agrees to give them to us.
I think we overdo it a little bit, honestly. Is it a big difference if it's in the extension part or just in the main one? Does it really matter for us?
Well,
being the
so
snack.
I could tell you from a practical perspective, I've run into implementations, and this is this is not an excuse, but I'll just tell you, I've run into implementations where which options appear in the router advertisement and in which order determines whether the implementation handles it correctly or not. I don't think that's a good reason to do anything, but you know, there is a cost to adding a new option to the thing.
And I will say, I think it's maybe the same issue that Ted is, but a little worse. There's implementations widely used where if they see an RA option that they don't understand, like an extension, a router advertisement flag extension, they'll just bail on parsing the rest of the options in that.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, actually. I think that's, what is it? That IoT IP
lightweight
TCP
IP
implementation? Yeah, LWIP, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I think that's been fixed in LWIP.
It is.
I hope. Yeah.
But, you know, within the last several months.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, the workaround that we came up with for that was to just put all of the weird stuff at the end. So, so we did actually fix that in a sense. And the presence of the RA, the RA extensions flags field doesn't actually prevent us from interoperating with those LWIP implementations. So
yeah, it is really. I mean, I don't think this excuse will fly in 6-man, right? It's not because
right. I mean, but so I'll tell you my motivation for doing this is that like we have the bits, and like if we're not going to allocate them for this purpose, what purpose are we going to allocate them for? My guess is we're never going to allocate them. Maybe that's okay. If that's the case, though, maybe we should actually publish a document that says these bits are reserved. And
yeah. And by the way, my question is that as well. I mean, I have no opinion, right? It's basically up to 6-man to decide. We may well end up in bit 6 or 7 without any question asked. So that's what I say. Don't overdo it, right? Just ask and see what they say.
Yeah.
Okay, so that sounds like the argument is that we're just going to ask for the bits, and that means, Apton, you're not going to get a clear answer for a while. Is that all right?
I don't think so. I mean, you asked for the bit. We need to get a draft, right? Which is clear. Yeah. I mean, I quickly browse again through Jonathan's draft. I mean, it needs to be a little bit beefed up. I think it's very short draft is okay, but maybe some more justification and some more text. And then you ask for the 6-man working group chair for an early allocation. And I don't think Eric Klein will oppose it because it's the responsibility for 6-man, right?
All right. Well, let's try that and see what happens.
Exactly. I mean, if they say no, that's no, right? When we know.
Yeah. Then you go to the extensions.
Okay. All right. We have a plan. Okay. So RA header flags field, ULE. Yeah. Okay. So I don't see any reason not to approve this document or this change. Does anybody have a reason? I mean, I made this comment, but so I guess the answer is we're just requesting that change or those 2 changes.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, the only instead of saying RA header flags, it's just use the term that's defined by the IANA registry.
Oh, right. So that's ND router advertisement flags.
These terms can be different than the ones in the RFCs, by the way. That's what I found. But okay.
Well, okay.
Well, we want to use the, well, so this is referring to RFC 5175. So RFC 5175 obsoletes 5075. It doesn't appear to update the original, it doesn't appear to update RFC 4861. So RFC 4861 says, router advertisement message format, checksum MO reserved. So it doesn't even use a term for those. Yeah, it just refers to that field as the reserved field.
The name
you may want to have a look at the IANA section of this document. Maybe they're using another term.
Yeah, they may have created a registry, or they may not have. Let's see. Just look for IANA consideration. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. So, in fact, it appears to be the case that we did not create an IANA registry for the flags.
And I think that's what
the other RFC did, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So this is.
But regardless, the name is the one that's in the IANA registry, right? Doesn't matter what the only way.
Yeah, I'm just
RFC that changed it.
So the registry, the IANA has defined a new IPv6 neighbor discovery option. This text is wrong. Has created a new registry for the IPv6 ND router advertisement flags. Yeah, so basically, yeah, that's the name that's in the registry as well.
So let's use this one.
So, yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, so. Okay. All right, so we've captured that. So I think we're done on that pull request. That was this one. Add requirement for no default route. Yeah, so this is just some text that we decided we needed to add. I think the text is good. Stub router should not advertise itself as the default router on the AIL by setting the non-zero router lifetime value, except in the case where the stub router is the default router for the AIL. I think that covers it.
And of course, there is a typo in connectivity to an ISP in the new text.
But yes.
Yeah.
Connectivity.
You will remember, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever is the first one.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I think we can approve this one. Yeah.
Make first the change in the word, right?
Yeah.
Fix the connectivity thing. So.
Yeah. All right. And then.
Just, I'm not sure the way this one's set up, but I think the conversations need to be closed before, if you're auto merging or anything.
Yeah. Well, so right. Oh, I see.
So you could approve it, and it'll. We can still wait and merge once conversations are all closed.
All right. Well, anyway, it's all good.
6-1.
The bottom line is, as far as I'm concerned, once all of the objections have been addressed, it would be perfectly fine for whoever made the pull request to just approve it. We don't really need to have the working group micromanage that process, I don't think. The reason we're doing the approvals here is just because it's convenient to be able to mark these as things we've already looked at. So and this request was just to add some text about what kind of host this will work with. And I think when we discussed this, we concluded that there really aren't any type A or type B hosts that we care about. The only The only hosts we care about are type C hosts, and pretty much every host you're likely to encounter in real life is a type C host. So problem solved. So this text is literally just capturing something that we discussed, I think, either in the last meeting or possibly even in Prague.
Yeah, and on the mailing list as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we can just approve this one. Hearing no objections. Okay, so that's all of the pull requests. And then, so we have 50 minutes left. There were a bunch of things we discussed in the last interim meeting which have not yet been captured. In order to capture those, my plan is to actually sit and listen to the recording and just type in all of the stuff we talked about typing in. I don't think we even captured that stuff as issues here. So
Yeah, some of them we did, like Kieran's.
Right.
Yeah, but not, yeah, maybe not all of them.
Yeah. Oh, right. Kieran added an issue right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. Okay.
I
So
think there's one that could be closed too now, Ted, based on what you just covered. It is issue 36. Actually, it looks like I think it's covered now by the changes that are made in the M&O bits, but I'm not sure. If more,
yeah.
Well, not yet.
So the usual way to do this is to when we merge the PR, you can say,
yeah.
I think if you just say in the comments for the merge fixes whatever issue, then it will close the issue automatically.
Yeah, but this one not yet, because there's one aspect of that still needs to be added. So this is not only the flag bits, but also things like all kinds of timer values. Basically,
Okay, good.
The ask was to have every bit and piece that happens to be in the array described in detail, and why, including motivation, why we make the choice. That was at least the outcome of the discussion.
Yeah, that kind of made sense and probably requires a section just for RA on its own,
or
right?
appendix or something could be, because it kind of repeats some things we already have. But it's good to have it in one place, like like these appendices where you have all the grammar collected in one place, or something like that. But then for the array, so that still needs to be added, that part.
Yeah, yeah. Some of the stuff in this comment is actually like RFC 4191 contradicts a later RFC, and the later RFC, I believe, updates RFC 4191. So I think we're okay with that. But anyway, yeah. So I guess the question is, how much do we need to discuss these?
So I had stuck myself on that, and I don't mind writing up that glossary section and putting a PR out for it. I've got
the glossary
started, so I'll just I'll put out. I think it was Esco who suggested the RA bits and every value be described somewhere. I like the idea of the appendix. If that's okay with you guys, I can submit a PR for that.
Yeah, I think it sounds best for an appendix. Like you can use that as a reference, just to look it up and also know why we made those choices. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We could do that.
Yeah, the glossary thing was just a simple question. Like I encountered the word node, and I was thinking, like, shouldn't that be host? And then I found that node is also defined in IPv6 context. So the question is that already known to everyone, or should we just have this reference to that terminology from IPv6?
We have this idea of abbreviations that don't need to be expanded, but I don't know if that includes.
It also defines address, for example, so like the real basic stuff.
Yeah. So we've got the abbreviations list, but that probably doesn't cover.
I don't think it covers nodes and oaths and a few things like this, but honestly,
Yeah,
it's pretty clear, right?
right. I mean, it certainly is true that the term node is a term of art, and it has a very specific meaning in the context of IPv6. And somebody who's reading the document but is not an expert on IPv6 might not know specifically what the term node means. Like, I think, that would that represents your confusion, right, Esco? You're
Yep.
obviously very experienced in the field, but you're not quite as deep into the IETF terminology as some of the other folks on the call. And so for you, the term node was a little bit new.
Yeah. Right.
And I think it's reasonable to assume that other readers of the document will have the same issue that ESCO had.
Mhm.
So therefore, putting the stuff in the glossary makes sense to me.
Just to reference, I think it should be enough. Then
Yeah.
by
Definitions in 200, right? So.
And I don't mind, right? So I think that's sensible as well, typically when you think about the audience. Now, it's not called glossary, usually it's called terminology, but beside it, that's
Right.
okay, right?
Good point. Yeah. And are we actually calling it, do we have a, let me see, here's, somewhere in here is the document I thought, maybe not.
Yeah, it's called glossary in the document.
Okay, so yeah, I guess we should change that to terminology. I'm going to add this to the discussion.
is there also an RFC that says you should call it terminology then?
Well, I mean, I think it's
even maybe, honestly, I don't know for sure, right? But the RFC has got a specific format with a start, a middle, and the ending. And you need to put INR section at the end and this kind of stuff. So I would not be surprised, let's go.
Okay.
okay. So captured that. I guess we could just look at the issues. I mean, consistent caps for terms, I think, is going to be pretty non-controversial. I think I agree with both of these statements.
No, I'm not an English native speaker, as you can hear, right? But using capitalized terms like this, except if you want to introduce an acronym, looks weird to me. Like ULA link prefix with the uppercase L and the uppercase P, and the same thing for ale.
Yeah,
speaker again.
I guess I agree with you. I mean, it seems a little bit like, in German they capitalize proper nouns, and then yeah, but in English we really don't. So I don't have a super strong feeling about this either way. I sort of agree with. I think I prefer your approach, Eric, to having them all be in caps. And since we have terminology entries for each of these, we probably don't need to, in the terminology entry, we definitely would capitalize adjacent infrastructure link. But that would be in the sort of the left-hand side of the definition, and the right-hand side, we wouldn't capitalize it. So does anybody feel strongly the other way?
No strong opinion.
Yeah, I think reducing capitals is good in this case because we will get more terms over time.
Yeah.
I just saw that both forms were used now. Yeah.
And just to clarify, this is ULA link prefix, not ULA on link prefix.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's actually another question. I think that's actually a really good point, Kieran, because it is a little confusing to say ULA link prefix and then also to say on link prefix. We're not actually saying ULA on link prefix, I don't think. I had suggested earlier that we use the term ULA subnet prefix. Subnet isn't really a term that's very popular in the world of IPv6, but it captures, I think, the meaning, which is a prefix, the set of network links on which a particular prefix is on link.
I prefer not to use subnet here because I think just with the person again who's coming with little background in NDP, some of the terminologies are already confusing, and if we overload with subnet, it is going to be an overwhelming thing for developers or people who are really deploying this home network and using it. So avoid subnet as much as possible.
Okay,
Or
so I guess the question is, so you had been concerned about ULA link prefix versus ULA on link prefix.
yeah, when will we use which one?
So
Or can we consistently just use on link in the document because that's the scope?
we certainly can't do that because the ULA link prefix is only on link on a particular link. And so when we say on link prefix, it's because we're referencing the relationship between the prefix and a particular link. But a lot of times when we use ULA link prefix, we're not referencing that relationship. And so that's why I'm a little concerned about the ambiguity here. I mean, one thing we could do is we could say ULA/64 prefix. And we could just always consistently say ULA/64 prefix in the places where we're currently saying ULA link prefix. That conveys, sorry?
Or we can continue using the way you're using it right now, but the place where we describe ULA on link prefix in our terminology section, maybe we can be a little bit more descriptive and show this differentiation.
Right. So right now, to be clear, in the current proposed change, so that's in maybe in this one. No, actually, no, it's not in this one. It's in this one. So the current text in the glossary says ULA link prefix, a unique local address /64 prefix derived from the ULA site prefix that stub routers advertise to provide addressability to the stub network and the adjacent infrastructure network as needed. So that's different than so the case where we use on link prefix was down here somewhere, I think.
Yeah, when it's provided by other routers, basically.
Well, that's one case, yes, but
and on link has got also a very specific meaning in IPv6, right? This is the L bit that we sent into the PIO.
Right.
So that's not perfect either.
Yeah. Well, so when we use the term on link prefix, we are talking about a prefix that has the L bit set for a particular link. So I think that's maybe okay. But I mean, it is. So we talked about this earlier. This is the section where we're talking about the adjacent infrastructure link, right? And so in that context, there's only one on-link prefix that the stub router is going to be advertising. And so we can kind of get away with using that term as if it's unambiguous. But we could also say the AIL prefix. And in fact, I think we do say that in other places. So that would be completely unambiguous, and then we would not be using the term on link anymore. And we could, in fact, in the glossary, we could say something along the lines of, yeah, so I'm realizing, like, actually there's another problem with using the term link prefix, ULA link prefix, which is that one of the uses that we have for a ULA link prefix is the NAT64 prefix, and that is never on link for any link. So it is a little, the choice of the term link prefix is a little bit questionable.
I have a while you're thinking about it, a follow-up question. So when we say AIL prefixes, they must have L bit set or not, or it could be optional depending upon the scenario.
So when we're advertising a prefix on the AIL, we actually explicitly say in a different pull request, let's see. Yeah, in this pull request, we actually made it explicit that we're required to set the L bit.
So whenever
Right.
we say AIL prefixes, do they implicitly mean AIL on-link prefix? That means.
Well, so here's the problem. All of these prefixes have terminology problems. If we say AIL prefix, that could mean the prefix we're advertising on the AIL. It could also mean, excuse me, it could also mean the prefix that that an infrastructure router is advertising on the AIL. Those are both AIL prefixes. So it's not perfectly.
May I suggest that we, in the terminology, right, or glossary, if you really insist to do it, introducing acronyms. So yeah. Like IL, I mean, I prefix or something like that. It makes things maybe a little bit easier to read after once we get used to the acronyms. Not that I like so much acronyms though. And by the way, I'm a little bit confused now with the on-link use here, right? The L bit, like on-link, means that you can do neighbor discovery to reach the mapping between the IP address and the MAC address of your neighbor. Right. That's only meaning of it, right? You don't need to go and to send the traffic on the same link to the router. So I don't think you should send the bits here.
No, we do set the bit here because we're advertising.
Why?
This is the case where there isn't IPv6 service on the infrastructure link. So we're advertising a prefix on the link that is to be used by hosts on the link.
You do not know, for instance, whether the infrastructure allows this broadcast of NDP messages.
Oh, if it doesn't,
no, but
then it's not going to work.
You send it.
Right. So I mean, the thing is, so we don't know. We don't have any control over the infrastructure. This is a situation where we're just we've been attached to the infrastructure and we're going to do our best to make things work. But if the infrastructure is blocking neighbor discovery, then it's not going to work.
No. It's just blocking neighbor. It's blocking because think about it, right? Some Wi-Fi systems, for instance, these allow communication from station to station. That's one thing. But if your stub router, right, can send array to all the station, because there's assuming, right, if you send it not receive, then you go nowhere, of course. But then the station the attached node cannot send ND to other attached node. You don't know what the infrastructure can be, right? And
right, but
so traffic to you.
Yeah, so the thing is, this is a best effort situation here. We do not have control over the infrastructure. We don't even have a way to detect that the infrastructure is blocking neighbor discovery, other than that when we try to do neighbor discovery, it fails. So what we're advertising when we set the L bit is, it is our intention that this prefix be used on link and that it be used for neighbor discovery. And if it turns out that neighbor discovery doesn't work, then stub routing isn't going to work. Like, we don't have an alternative. There isn't some other thing we could do.
Well, if a attached node host cannot talk to another attached node, right, on the air, you don't really care as long as they can talk to your stub network, and then can do it because they know your address. Anyway, the point is that I understand why you said it, because it will work in 99.999% of the times. We may want to explain why we say it, though, because that's not correct to send it like this.
So I'm a little confused by this statement, Eric, because it seems like, I mean, I don't think that requirement is enforced for regular routers. But
regular routers know on which kind of network they are attached to.
No, they don't.
Oh, they do.
They're just connected to the network. I mean, the operator knows what kind of network they're connected to. So the operator could.
No, but it depends upon the interface, right? The interface type.
Right.
So if you know that on this typical, Wi-Fi or Ethernet or blah, blah interface, you are allowing communication from host to host direct on the same LAN, right? Then it's okay to send it. But if you attach to an interface where the network, the data link layer is not Ethernet or Wi-Fi, you cannot send the L-bit because you know there is no traffic there that will go from attached host to attached host.
Okay, so the distinction you're making is not whether the network is operationally enabled for neighbor discovery, but rather whether neighbor discovery is even possible on that particular link.
No, only if you are multicast traffic, the multicast traffic of NDP is allowed on this network. It's a layer 2 thing, right? It's not a layer 3 thing.
Right. Right. Okay, so the thing is that, I guess the question that I'm trying to get to is, so we've got a stub router that has a network interface, physical piece of hardware in the stub router. We know what kind of hardware it is. It's Ethernet, or it's Wi-Fi, or it's something else. And if I understand your point, it's that if it's something else, the L-bit might not be appropriate.
Correct.
Okay. So I think that's a good thing to capture in the document. I think on a practical level, it's probably nobody's going to make a stub router that has the something else, but I think it's worth clarifying that so that they know that.
Yeah, you can say simply the L-bit must be set according to the network or something like that, right? You mean some could be some text from 4861 for the router advertisement when it's set, or according to 4861.
So does 4861 specify this?
Yeah, I guess so, right? That's where the flag is defined.
Well, let's see. So 4861.
Let's see.
Source prefix information option. L-bit. When set indicates that this prefix can be used for on-link determination. When not set, the advertisement makes no statement about on-link or off-link properties. In other words, if the L flag is not set, a host must not conclude that an address is off-link.
It doesn't name that much.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is why I'm kind of like confused here, because I don't think that the existing documents really cover what you're talking about, which doesn't mean that you're wrong to bring it up. It's just like, I don't know how to solve this in a SNAC document, but we can just make it. I mean, is there a document we could reference that talks about this particular conundrum?
Let me check about on-link on the... On 4861, if you look about the terminology, I guess, I hope, yeah, there is on-link terminology. So, and by the way, we can want to use it.
Okay, an address.
Doesn't help either, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess another question would be, so we're updated by a lot of documents. Let's see if any of these documents support for adjustable maximum router life. Oh, actually, is that?
Yeah, and if you look about section 2.2 and 4861, there is the link type, and we could talk about shared media and the non-broadcast multi-access and this kind of stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, what I would be inclined to say for this is links on which
or you should say simply according to RSC 4861 and the attached link. But the A is of course mandatory because that's up to you, right? It's up to you, meaning in the router.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess I'm trying to capture. So the element may not be appropriate for some layer 2, not for some layer 2 implementations. The exact handling of such situations is out of scope for this document. That's what I would say.
Okay, which is fair enough. Which is fair enough.
Okay. Yeah. So
if you don't do something in the same vein, I'm pretty sure that the 6-man people will say, hey, what's happening there?
okay. So we've captured that. I mean, I think this, what you just said, Eric, actually is probably where we're going to wind up with this. We'll float this past 6-man, mention the issue, and ask them what we ought to say there.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea. Excuse me. All right. So, well, that was an interesting discussion. Actually, I wasn't. That was a little lacuna that I was unaware of. Let's see. So we added the okay, so sorry, these are pull requests. Back to issues. Consistent caps, the consensus we documented. Consistent term for flag bits. Okay, so this is, yeah, I mean, I think this is correct. So I don't have any objection to this.
Yeah, so the idea was to do it at some later point after merging more text.
Yeah, so I guess I think, sort of our next step after this meeting is that everybody who has pull requests should address whatever issues remain in the pull requests and then merge them. And then once that's happened, then we can start adding some additional pull requests to fix some of these things that we're discussing here.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Kieran, this was mentioned in the meeting. I think I agreed to add some text about that. So I'm going to have to go over the meeting recording. And I think I actually said what the text should say. And so I'll just go over the meeting recording and then type in that text. And that too will occur after all of the merges. So here, client mobility.
Yeah, this is more of a question, do we need to consider anything from that particular document?
Yeah. Well, so let's see, did that document, I can't remember what the status of that is. This isn't really saying.
Yeah, it seemed to be related in a way. So you use PD to allocate a prefix to one client, and which is in our case the stub router who uses it on the stub network.
Yep. I'm not seeing there's a link here that gets us back to the, like, so, okay, so document status, submitted to the ISG. Okay, great. So, all right, I just wanted to make sure that this document was actually, I couldn't remember what the ultimate result of the discussion was. So this has been basically approved by the working group. So yeah, what would the SNAC stub router do if there's no prefixes available? So certainly we should document that. And I mean, I think, the answer is indeed fall back to a self-generated prefix. What else are we going to do? So that's one thing. Do we pay attention to the PIO flag? Well, so there, so what this document is talking about is prefix delegation per host. And so for the prefix that we allocate on the stub network, this is irrelevant because we want that prefix whether it's per host or not. So we don't care about the setting of this flag for the prefix that we're allocating for the stub network. However, this is really about what happens on the adjacent infrastructure link. So on the adjacent infrastructure link, the node on which the stub router is running may not be permitted to do autonomous allocation. And so this would actually kind of implicate the text that we have about acceptable, or was it suitable prefixes. So in the case that PD per host is enabled on the link, this could mean that even though, excuse me, even though there's no quote unquote suitable prefix advertised on the link, that nevertheless the link supports IPv6 and we don't have to advertise a prefix. And I think that's true and we should document that. So let me just write that down because I actually had to think about this and that means I'll forget it. Yep. Okay, so we should update this text. And actually, I would say I'm gonna create a new thing because this is a whole, this is going to be a significant issue, and I don't think it should be part of this issue. Well, actually, no. I guess so. I don't know how to. So we're already dealing with this, with the prefix length. We just talked about that text. For client mobility, I don't really know what this means.
Yeah, you're referring to the link here. That links to another issue, basically.
Yeah.
So that was basically about a non-mobility case or possible mobility case, like if the device could have moved to a new link. So what to do with prefix delegation, and that's now clarified in the update for the RFC about PD. So there's some new text is included there just to clarify.
Okay. So my main takeaway from this bit of discussion is that we don't need to address this question in this issue because we have another issue that's specific to this question. So
yeah, it could be moved there.
Yeah. So okay. So PD prefix length, I think we already have covered. This we've already covered, or we're covering a different thing. This is I think the key issue, which I just talked about down below. And then, so I think both of these, I sort of feel like we already talked about what happens if we try to do DHCP v6 PD and we don't get a prefix, which is we just allocate one. But I think this is the one that's actually the biggest change. And so I've talked about what that issue is, and I think we now know. So somebody, whether it's me or somebody else, just needs to do a new pull request that addresses this point and make sure that also this point is fully addressed. This is the third point. So okay, so that's that point. We're getting down to the last 10 minutes. Do the chairs want to talk about anything before we close?
Thanks. So there's, I mean, from my point of view and Kieran, we haven't been chatting in the background. So, oh, where did Kieran go? There she is.
Kieran's there.
Okay. We haven't been chatting in the background, but from my point of view, there's still a lot of issues, a lot of work that needs to be done, a lot of pull requests that need review, a lot of requests that need to be made. So as we come up to IETF 119, I'm thinking closing off as many issues as we can before 119 is great. Whatever is left, we probably need to do or ask the working group to become familiar with them before we meet. Again, refamiliarize ourselves with them and be prepared to discuss and close those issues in the meeting. I think that's probably what we'll be moving towards for an agenda at 119. Does anyone have other thoughts?
No, that's fair. So from agenda perspective, we will update the work group all the progress we made in these 2 interim meetings. And if we have time, we will go and address more open issues. third thing is, what are the next steps? That's something maybe we want to discuss. Is there an opportunity to write a new document after simple or something else? One thing came to my mind is, can we describe scenario or a use case document? We don't have to do it for this IETF, but is there an opportunity for new document to write, and then we can ask the work group if somebody is interested in taking that up?
So on the charter, I think we had two documents planned. One was this document and the other was the managed use case document. And we pulled some of the managed use case functionality into this document, but not all of it. So there's definitely still work to do in the managed use case. So I think definitely we want to do that document.
Okay. And this document still has a lot of work to do. We need to
Yes.
add the entire NAT state machine and all. So
Yeah. There's plenty to do here. So I mean, and so by the way, the cutoff for document submissions is next Monday at like, midnight UTC, which is 7 p.m. here, and I think 4 p.m. in California. So I would suggest that we just try to, first of all, everybody who's got pull requests that are open, I think we approved all of the pull requests with caveats. So if those could get closed quickly, that would be awesome. Because that then enables us to do like one more pass of pull requests before the cutoff. And then one of the authors should basically just take whatever is in the repo Monday morning and publish it. I don't think we like, if we try to get fancy and like push the deadline on Monday, we're probably going to get in trouble. So I would say Monday morning, it's somebody's job. I'm going to nominate either Jonathan or Esco because I'm a lazy person, but you guys can also tell me that I have to do it. That's fine. But somebody has to take whatever's in the repo at that time and publish it, which should be pretty easy.
Yeah, however you guys want to work that, that's totally fine. Yeah, if and there'll be some good changes and some good content to discuss. And that will, Kieran, you're right. That will be the first focus of the in-person meeting, is to go through what's been changed, right? Just review what's been changed, like an overview of it, and then get into what's next.
Yeah, and another thing is, even after the in-person meeting, after you guys have recovered from your jet lag, we should continue with interim meetings so that we keep pushing the progress on the document. I hope everyone is okay with that.
The question I would have is whether the California people are willing to tolerate such an early meeting, but
It actually, for me, it was fine. I don't mind it at all. Let's see Jonathan's availability.
The time is generally fine. Yes. Which specific date are we talking about?
that's to be discussed.
Okay.
If we were to do this every 3 weeks, some cadence, every 2-3 weeks, something like that, would this time be satisfactory?
Good for me.
Yeah, I think it's generally fine. I'm just seeking through my calendar. I think it's fine.
Yep, fine for me as well.
I can make it work here.
Great.
All right.
All right, so that's it. Let's see how much, someone will definitely send a document. Otherwise, we will send a gentle reminder on Friday that, guys, please publish the document.
Yep.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for doing
again,
this.
Guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Take care.
Bye.